What's up, guys? Welcome back to Newswave. So there's been a lot of conversation when it comes to concerns of game preservation as we head towards the all-digital future for games. Well, now it looks like a new report is circulating online that's pointing towards Sony actually shutting down the PlayStation Store for the PS3, the PSP, and the PlayStation Vita in just a few months. And we're going to talk about that one here today. Also, we're going to talk about Mario's 35th anniversary. It's coming to a close in a little over a week now, and Nintendo put out a new message that's kind of strange and makes it a bit worse, actually. Oh, and there's this really cool exploit for the original PlayStation that makes it a lot easier for you to play your backup games. Guys, if you enjoyed these videos, make sure that like button helps out a ton. And if you're new to the Small Wave channel, make sure you subscribe down below. And we're going to start today with that ID at Xbox event that is coming up this Friday. We're expecting to see a whole range of games, over 100, ranging from really smaller indie titles up to Stalker 2. But it looks like one game maybe was leaked out a bit too early for its announcement. We can see this tweet here from Xbox News saying it appears Hades will be present at the ID at Xbox show. And we can see right up there highlighted, it looks like Hades. Now, this image was taken from a tweet that was put up by Twitch and has since been deleted. But scrolling a little further down, we can see Glenn at ID at Xbox did respond saying, hey, just to set expectations correctly, no, Hades will not be featured in Friday's show. Its inclusion in that artwork was an error. And I guess there we go. It won't be there, or that's something you would say if the game leaked out a little early and you got to try to cover it up. Either way, though, I would like to see Hades get that Game Pass check because, I mean, Supergiant deserves it after how good that game is, and it just won Game of the Year, and more people should be trying it. So sure, have them get that Game Pass bag and get it out to more people. I'd like to see it there, but I guess we'll see this Friday. Also, it looks like a new system is heading to North America from Sega, and we can see it here. This is the Astro City Mini coming to North America via limited run games, and it says pre-orders will open March 26th. This launched in Japan a few months ago in December of 2020, and it has a ton of different games, and we actually have a few accessories with it. Now, the system itself being done through limited run games will be $130. They also have like the mini gamepad you can get for $28, and this interesting style kit. It has like a little stool that was in the Sega arcades, and it also has like a little coin-based setup there, so it just more or less looks like it would in the arcade. Obviously, if you want to show it off, it's pretty cool looking when you have it all set up there. But if we go down the list of games, there are some really good ones here. 37 different games, which includes Alex Kidd, Columns, Altered Beast, Golden Axe. I mean, the list goes on here. Shinobi, Wonder Boy, Virtua Fighter. So I'm really happy to see this heading to North America because I saw it get announced last year and I really did think about importing. And I was like, maybe. But seeing it actually come over through limited run games, yes, I'll be pre-ordering this one immediately. Oh, and we haven't talked about Stadia for a while now. And hey, they actually did something that makes sense for what they're trying to be currently, which is more or less a way to deliver third-party titles to people without needing a system. We can see this card here. Yes, it does look like Resident Evil Village will be heading to Stadia the same day as other systems, that being, of course, the PS5, the Xbox Series, the PS4, Xbox One, and PC. That being on May 7th. In fact, if you pre-order the game now for like the $60, you just get the Stadia Premier Edition for free, that with the controller and the Chromecast Ultra. This is something they should be doing a lot. Any of these larger releases that they can attach the controller and the little Chromecast Ultra to, they need to do it every time. Just any way they can get this hardware into people's hands so they can try it and maybe even roll some of the Pro feature into it with a couple of months of Stadia Pro. They also did announce that Resident Evil 7 Biohazard will be heading to the service April 1st, and that will be available free with Stadia Pro. I mean, seriously, Stadia is in this weird position right now, so doing things like this at least makes sense. I mean, there's still a lot of people who are wondering if it'll make it to the end of the year. At least they're trying to do something here. And guys, with some of the quick news out of the way, let's get into the bigger stuff. Let's start right away with Sony, the PlayStation 3 store, the PlayStation Portable store, and the PlayStation Vita store, all possibly being shut down in just a couple of months. Now, this report is coming from The Gamer, and from what I can tell, they have hard dates for all of this stuff, so that kind of tells me maybe a press release got out there a little too early because this is something coming at the end of this month. We can head over to The Gamer, where they say the PS3, PS Vita, and PlayStation PlayStation Portable stores aren't long for this world. According to a source familiar with the situation, verified by the gamer, the stores are due to be closed down from July. The announcement is planned for the end of this month. That's kind of why I'm thinking of, oh, this might be a press release, because then they say PSPs and PS3 stores are to be closed on July 2nd, while the PS Vita store will stay open until August 27th. After those dates, you will no longer be able to purchase digital copies of games or DLC for any of the Sony consoles mentioned above. Now, there are still some questions. Okay, if you've bought a game, can you then still download it after those hard dates in July and then August on those systems? That would be a shame if they wouldn't allow you to do so, but I still kind of think you can still pull your digital purchases if you've made them prior to that. But we'll find out more apparently at the end of this month, according to the gamer. Again, I still think it might be a press release that they got a hold of a bit early because they seem to know a lot of different dates and even when they could be potentially making this announcement. But going beyond that, there is an issue here when it comes to Sony and their legacy software. And none of this would really surprise me because of how Jim Ryan views their older software. There have been times where he's on record saying, who would want to play the old Gran Turismo? You see what it looks like. So in Jim Ryan's mind, this makes sense because it's an expense that they can cut out pretty easily by shutting down the PlayStation 3 store or the Vita store. These are games that to him don't really make a lot of sense to continue advertising and holding up entire digital storefronts for, because they're probably looking at it and realizing that not a lot of people are buying through these storefronts. They're all buying through the PlayStation 4 or the PlayStation 5 right now. There are some very, very well-priced PlayStation original games that if you go on eBay are way more. For example, Misadventures of Tronbon, extremely expensive on eBay. It's $6 on the PlayStation Network right now on like the PS3 or on the Vita. You can also look at Suikoden 2, much cheaper on the PlayStation Network. And then you can go through several of the different PS2 titles that they offer. And then you get into like the PSP titles and the Vita titles. And it does get a bit concerning because you look at that and say, they're about to cut off a massive supply of these digital purchases for these systems, which means the physical market will probably start to spike after that. So now is a good time, I would say, as soon as you hear about this announcement being made, to start shopping for PSP titles. Vita titles are kind of already at hand, but definitely PlayStation 3 titles. I think the most frustrating part about all of this is that Sony really hasn't done a lot when it comes to backwards compatibility for their different systems. I know PS3 comes up a lot. People are saying, it's just a lot of work. Well, you know what? It might be worth doing that. Honestly, you can resell some of these games. Microsoft has made a big push towards backwards compatibility, and the more I see how Sony handles it, the more I appreciate how Microsoft handles it. I mean, really, you don't think that Sony could allow you to put a PS1 disc in the PS5 now and play a PS1 game that maybe then downloads from the server? Obviously, the PS5 can play PlayStation 1 games through an emulator. Same thing with the PS2. The PS3, sure, that could come into question, but it already plays PS4 titles then, so even if you're like, look, we're not going to do PS3, you could at least do PS1 and PS2. You could even get into the PSP side of things. Maybe that all rolls in to PlayStation Now, which is already a service that people are paying for. You could start to really double down on those subscription services. They could do one that's entirely based around legacy software and work to fund their own backwards compatibility initiative. But we should find out more about this whole situation with these different digital stores, according to the gamer, later on this month. So in like a week or so, Sony should send out a press release and make an announcement. Look through the fine print and see what Sony has for us. I'll keep you guys updated. Next up, let's talk about the Mario 35th anniversary. It's ending in a little over a week now on March 31st. So here's your reminder. If you wanted to get the 3D All-Stars collection physically or digitally, you want to think about doing it here pretty soon, but they are going to remove it from their digital store, and any retailers that have stock of it, as soon as they sell through it, like, that's it. They're not going to be getting any more shipped in. But what about Nintendo in some of their actual stores, like the Nintendo store in New York, for example, or in Tokyo? Well, interestingly enough, they put out a message that seems to imply that they're just going to start ripping this stuff off of their store shelves. We can see that message here, and this from Nintendo Life going over it saying, Nintendo has confirmed that a set of special Mario 35th anniversary products currently available at its Tokyo store will be pulled from sale on March 31st. I mean, we can see the 3D All-Stars box there, of course, a mug, and then a few other things to go along with that. But I figured they would just sell through it, and then that would be that. They wouldn't look to replenish the stock or any of that. But No, I guess as soon as midnight hits March 31st and they go into April 1st, they're just ripping all that stuff off of the shelves in Tokyo and I guess in New York and any other Nintendo stores. It's just funny to think about them running through and just ripping it down and I guess sending it back to Nintendo headquarters. What do they do with this exactly? Do they just put it in like a storage unit? Do they put it in the back of a warehouse somewhere? Do they just lock it in a closet at Nintendo of America? I'm not 100% sure on that one. It seems very strange they wouldn't just work to sell through it. I do wonder if they're going to save it for some day in the future where they do one of those like random drops for one day only at one of these Nintendo stores. I guess that's possible. It's very strange that they really want to accelerate these Mario games and stuff getting ripped off the shelves. Hey, maybe that means they got to get the Zelda stuff up. That's all we can really hope for right now with this. Next up, let's talk about the original PlayStation and a new exploit called Tony Hacks. Now, the idea here is that you would load a save file off of a memory card and use a game like Tony Hawk Pro Skater 2, which continues to be like the best PlayStation game ever made. And here it is now, also opening up the original PlayStation for all of your backup games to be played through it. And it's pretty interesting to think about that because we've done this with other systems. I know the original Xbox, one of the most popular ways to soft mod that was using Splinter Cell or Mech Warrior. There were a few different games, but we can head over here to Hackaday, who does at least explain how all of this is possible, saying, aptly named Tony Hacks, the exploit uses a classic buffer overflow found in the Create Skater mode in Tony Hawk 2, 3, and 4. When the game sees a custom character saved on the memory card, it will automatically load the name field to show it on the screen, but it turns out the developers didn't think to check the length of the name before loading it. Thanks to this oversight, a long and carefully crafted name can be used to load an executable payload into the console's memory. Now, Marcos has actually released this completely. You can look at the source code and also adding several other games that can use save files to achieve this same thing. After you've done that, though, it will load into this executable, and then you can just take Tony Hawk Pro Skater 2 or 3 or any of that out of there and pop in a burn CD. It's actually really cool, and MVG did an entire video showcasing this, and it is pretty neat to see this being really discovered and released now in 2021. And the issue I guess you'd run into is you need a memory card that has that save file on it to kind of unlock this and open it up, and it can be kind of a pain to make that happen. There are those like memory card adapters let you plug it into a USB port on your PC and transfer a save over, but those are getting pretty expensive. What and I think many other people are assuming is that because this hack and this exploit will become kind of popular because it's very easy to use, more likely you'll see those memory cards pop up on eBay, for example, or Amazon that just has it advertised as having one of these save files for one of these games. And the list is growing, so you may already have one or two of these games that would work with this exploit. I think the part I like about this the most is that it's very, very easy to do, because if you want to install an X station, and it's a little harder. If you want to install a mod chip and start soldering wires everywhere, it's more than likely most people are not going to do that, whereas this is you popping in a memory card and then just loading up Create a Skater on Tony Hawk Pro Skater 3, and you're off and running. So really cool stuff here. Check out MVG's video for more information and just an overall detailed look at how this was done. And in our last bit of news, let's talk about several trademarks that have been made public and filed in Japan from a couple of different companies. We can see the list here from Gamatsu, where we have Koei Tecmo Games. They have done a trademark for Katana Engine, and there is a good chance that, yes, that could be for a new engine they are developing. Maybe it's one that more or less takes advantage of possibly the PlayStation 5 or the Xbox Series X, just next generation hardware, which that'd be interesting to see what Koei Tecmo can come up with there. And then we do have Sega, which probably have the biggest one, or at least the most talked about trademark here, being Lost Judgment, because of course people are matching that up with Judgment. Could this be a sequel to that game? Well, according to Gamatsu, Judgment was actually called Judge Eyes in Japan. So while when we're looking at this, it seems to match up right in our mind, it actually doesn't in Japan, which is unfortunate because, hey, it would be pretty cool to see a sequel to Judgment. I actually like that game more than I thought I would, and mostly when I play a Yakuza game, I start to get through it and then I kind of trail off of it a bit and then I'll come back to it later, and sometimes I end up putting a Yakuza game down like 2 or 3 times before I finally finish it, whereas Judgment, it actually kept me pulled in like all the way through, which is pretty interesting. So yeah, I would like to see a sequel to it. Unfortunately, this trademark doesn't necessarily mean 100% that that's what's happening here, but the Katana Engine is an interesting one to keep an eye on for Koei Tecmo. And before we go to the comment of the day, we're taking a look at the poll that I posted up yesterday, where I asked, will Halo Infinite release in 2021 as planned? 53% of you said yes, Microsoft will have it ready for the holiday. 47% of you said no, it will still need more time and fall to 2022. That's a pretty split poll overall there for what's supposed to be Microsoft's big iconic franchise. It's Halo. Like, you figure that game would have made it at launch. In fact, Master Chief was on the back of the Series X box, but clearly there were issues with 343 and getting Halo out. I understand remote work, pandemic, all of that, but that is a franchise that Microsoft needs to get right. And you know what? If it has to fall to 2022, it has to fall to 2022. I think it is coming out this year, though, mostly because it has to come out this year. Otherwise, there are going to be some serious questions for 343 and if they're up to the task of shipping a game like Halo. A whole lot of talent just showed up pretty recently with ZeniMax and Bethesda, and I'm sure 343 realizes that one. And we'll finish up with the comment of the day as you're seeing here. This is from Ryan saying, by the time Spider-Man comes out on Avengers, the game will retail for $20 and could go on sale for $5, and that'll be my time to buy the game. You know what? By the time Spider-Man comes out, let's say at the end of this year, it honestly could just be free to play. It could be on Game Pass, or it could have even been added into PlayStation Plus at some point. Really, these are all avenues that Square should be exploring for this game. They have to keep that player count up, and it does still struggle even with new content that comes out. And really, they'd probably make more money anyway as we go along. I'm sure they'll add more and more things that you buy into the game. So that's something that I think Square should be considering as we go forward. I know they wanted to get that $60 upfront price when it dropped because it's Avengers. It's expensive, I'm sure, to make and do all the partnerships with Marvel. But at a certain point, you got to look at that and say, we should probably lower that barrier of entry to like nothing to get more people into a game that's already having a hard time. And ladies and gentlemen, that's gonna do it here for Newswave. If you enjoyed this video, guys, hit the like button, it really helps out. If not, hit the dislike. Leave comments down below about everything we talked about here today. Where is Sony potentially shutting down the digital storefront for the PS3, the PSP, and the Vita? What do you think about that one? And then the Mario 35th anniversary coming to a close here pretty soon, right at the end of March. How long until Nintendo starts talking about that Zelda 35th anniversary? Thanks guys for watching, and I'll see you next time.